Hey friend, are you caught in the trap of being an underachieving overachiever? Let's dive into this today. I just became again aware of a small little thing that I was doing to block my not just achievement, forget that word, where I want to be to get to be further along on my path. Perhaps you're trying to achieve something in life, or you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to cultivate something beautiful in your life, something next level. Let's talk about it like that. I sometimes cringe at the word achieve because it's so like success driven, corporate. And you know what? We're human. On our path, especially one of expansion, we meet so many little catalysts along the way, ones that a lot of YouTubers do not want to show on their channel. Them being vulnerable and how they get to the top, maybe, or how they get to cultivating what looks so easy to do. Some people make it look so easy, but we forget all of the small steps along the way, or we don't see those small steps maybe, or we overlook those small steps that maybe they have shown us. And we reduce the importance of small steps that all accumulate into the bigger picture. We really reduce those steps a lot. We do it individually, but we do it as a society too. And then we put other people on a pedestal. But today, I want to unfold to you a pattern in my life that maybe you also relate with. Is this pattern, this habit that I've had since childhood of not participating enough, not participating at all, maybe at times. And yet, nonetheless, I achieved a lot, but I played small again and again. I wouldn't let myself partake in things that would have aligned me further into my path sooner. All on good time, though, I can also say. So I do not have regrets necessarily. For when we get caught up in regrets, it really is slippery slope there, a slippery slope. Where in your life is lack of participation holding you back? Well, I'm going to dive into this and tell you a little bit about how I noticed this. I hadn't really noticed it actually till about a year or so ago, after I had finished coaching certifications. And, I also have a college graduate degree. I've been a teacher where I encouraged participation for others. I've done other walks of life that I've shared about on here where I encourage participation, where participation counts. And yet, I was holding myself back from participating. I have been. And I have been doing it in ways, though, that I couldn't always see. This is the thing also, is that we can't always see what we're blocked by and what we're denying. Denial is an interesting thing. Because once we have these epiphanies, right, and we see outside of it, we're like, but that's so obvious, you know? But then it's sometimes those small things. And I remind myself of that as a coach, that coaches need other coaches. You're not just like, hey, I'm a coach and now I have it all figured out. Because as one of my best friends and I joke, we're attuned to different bullshit. Like, for example, she'll say, we'll talk about attachment styles. And I said, well, how does that one work for you? Because we share some of those traits of a certain attachment style. And I say, oh, that's interesting. It's a little different for me. She's like, yep, we're attuned to different bullshit, babe. It's like, yeah. So it's actually good when someone isn't attuned to the same crap because they can show it to you. Or maybe they were attuned to the same thing and they reveal that to you. My intention really for this channel again and again is to keep dropping my ego and to keep being vulnerable, because I know, really, as painful as vulnerability is, it really is the touchstone of growth. It really is the touchstone of true connection. And it would be easy for me sometimes to come on here and I say it could be easy, but it's not easy. It's not easy for me to pull a facade. The facade no longer lets me grow. The facade of being like, I have it all together. And part of this has been this block of participation. I noticed as I continued on the coaching journey that I couldn't get, and I can't get, where I see myself all the way down the line. I see the end dream, the end goal, if we can call it. Right? I see the end goal that I've seen for 12 years. Maybe you relate to that too, is that when you're carving out the path to get to your goal, your larger goal, the end goal, or the goal of when you're 50 years old, or in 10 years or 8 years, you can see that so clearly, but you can't maybe see all of the little steps in between. And I see now why I've been blocked of seeing those steps, is because I have not put myself out there enough, participating with communities that resonate with my values. And today I saw right through an assumption and a projection, really, that has been blocking me from alignment with that. So I'll go a little bit deeper here and unfold this and explain this more. And this does relate back to what I'm saying about the underachieving overachiever. So if you grew up with childhood trauma, you will relate to this pattern of underachieving, but also maybe overachieving. And this also relates to cycles of like high functioning and then burnout. This is also goes very much linked with people who have ADHD, or maybe a certain attachment trauma like I've had. And we, in our society, we like to portray only the overachieving, but we don't talk about where we are underachieving, or this mix that sounds paradoxical, but it is a thing. So what can happen when you go through childhood trauma is that you develop this thing called learned helplessness. And there are patterns, there are traits, of learned helplessness. You may avoid making decisions. You may struggle with motivation. You may procrastinate. You may be passive. So a lack of participation is a passivity. Where is that coming from? Sometimes it would be a thing like, I didn't care enough. Or it would be that I wanted to stay under the radar. I'll just read this real quick so you understand a cap of what learned helplessness is. But I'm not going to go super far into it in this video. This is from verywellmind.com. We probably all know that website by now. Learned helplessness occurs when a person who has experienced repeated challenges comes to believe they have no control over their situation. They then give up trying to make changes and accept their fate. And you can read a lot more on it. It's very interesting. This goes hand in hand with this thing of breaking out of assumptions and projections and beliefs, it continuously baffles me when I break out of this small little assumption or belief. A belief, assumption is a belief. And it was such a simple thing, but I break out of it and I see, like, whoa, I've been doing this my whole life in little ways, incrementally adding up. When I was a little girl up until college, I was something of an overachiever in a lot of ways, but I never saw it as that, even though my mother would tell me I was a perfectionist, and I grew up being a perfectionist. And as you may know, that can hold you back in life. Perfectionism can make you go in looped patterns where you never get anything really accomplished. You're working overtime. And a lot of people, once again, with ADHD or other ailments that relate to perfectionism patterns, underachieving, overachieving, burnout, high functioning, burnout. I call them ailments instead of just mental illness, because it doesn't just affect the mind, it affects the body and the soul. Okay, I'm holistic here. These things interplay and are connected. Other ailments related with childhood trauma, because all of this stuff comes from trauma when you trace it back, and the ingrained survival strategies that we develop due to trauma. I got honor roll all the time as a girl. I won awards. I won Scholar Athlete. I won Most Creative. I never felt like I deserved it. I never felt like it was good enough. It was never good enough. I also compared myself all the time to the other kids who knows what really they had going on at home. I don't think everyone's home was perfect, but the way my mindset was is that I was abnormal. I grew up in this dysfunctional, traumatic home. My parents were fighting all the time. I was being abused by an older sibling. And I wanted to be, even though grades didn't matter in my house, there were no consequences for whatever mark I got. I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be like the other kids whose parents said that it was important that they got straight A's. I'm actually really glad that I chose the family that I chose now, because they saw through the school system. So it was easy for me to see through that programming, actually, once I went through my process of the beginning of my awakening and seeing the programming of society. So on one hand, I chose an unorthodox type of upbringing, but I digress. I wanted to fit in with that, but it was never good enough for my inner critic. I wanted to also at the same time go under the radar. A lot of times I didn't participate because I was just dissociated a lot. I grew up and I was mostly living in a state of dissociation until about 2018, 19. And then I started shaking out the trauma. It's amazing to live and be embodied. If you're still in dissociation, I invite you to come out of it. I know it's scary, but life will be much more enriching once you do. For several weeks, I have been quite stagnant on putting things out there. I was still working through it, but I was like really stuck in some mud. And maybe you go through these patterns too. If you're trudging through something and you can't seem to make ground. And as usual, being a person who does a lot of personal development, I've been invested in one particular program that I was a little bit stunted with, knowing that I'll come back to it, but stunted. before I opened up the program to say, all right, we got to get back into this today, I had opened up an email on my phone, and it was an invite, an alumni invite to my health coaching certification program. And it's crazy because I just like rolled my eyes at it, and looking back after this shift that I just had, I was like, what was that about? I just rolled my eyes and just would bypass it like it was another email in my email box. And it wasn't important because I felt like, whatever. It's not like the program was that hard. It's not like you worked that hard for it and devoted like a whole year to it. It's not like always reducing it. The same kind of reducing that I'd done in the past, where, okay, I said I used to get honor roll all the time. I got scholar athlete. I got the Pinnacle Award. Oh, I graduated high school, and I I got a scholarship. Ended up getting grants. But my mom died. My mom died my first year in high school. And between that and my crumbling family system, I went into like a complete pit of depression, which actually, that depression did not officially lift till those years that I mentioned earlier when I was shaking off the trauma and healing. I was having like exponential growth, and that was 8 years into my healing journey. I would love to say that I can expedite your healing, knowing now the the kind of things that didn't work for me, actually, that didn't shift me quickly enough, and what has. But at the same time, we all heal on our own time, and the self comparisons, they never do us any good. They really hold us back. So I was in this depression, and at some point I was no contact with my father. Then they all came. He came, my brothers, and my grandmother. They were all there at my high school graduation. But I felt weird. I compared myself. I continued to compare myself all the time to the others in my school. And when I got that Pinnacle Award, I really thought that they just gave it to me out of pity. I took any little bit of evidence, my subconscious would take any little bit of evidence and think of it as something that, and just find anything that meant that I hadn't really been worthy of it. And I fortunately, I saved at least the pamphlet that had my name printed in it and all of the other award winners and what was written about me. And I recently went back and I read it and felt into what parts of me still are feeling not good enough, feeling like they just gave me that award out of pity because my mom died and I still succeeded a bit in school. But I didn't really deserve it because I didn't go to Yale. Not that that matters now, especially seeing how a lot of these Ivy League schools just, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it, but if you've been on the process of awakening, you'll see that academia is a little bit of BS. It's a little bit of BS. And controlled a bit much by the powers that be. We'll see. But at the same time, sure, I do believe in education of, and I believe in critical thinking for ourselves. Yeah, so I read that again and felt into it. I had gotten these different awards and I felt like it didn't really matter. And then after the graduation, we went out to eat, and a waitress dropped a glass of water on my father's shoulder. It just wet his coat, his his jacket, and he went into a fit of rage. he had an outburst, and it was very humiliating for the waitress. It was humiliating for me. And I remember going to the bathroom, and she had been in there at the same time, crying, and I was just frozen. I wanted to say something to her and make it better, but I was frozen and I couldn't. And I just thought, I'm so sorry. What you're dealing with is what I dealt with my whole life whenever I was in his presence. So I wanted really to go under the radar a lot. And maybe you've been there, you're there too. Once again, this healing it's a journey, and it's non-linear. I may be on my path as a priestess, but I'm no guru on the mountain. I'm here to serve. I'm here to share heart to heart, heartfelt connection, vulnerability. The days of the guru on the mountain are over anyway. You know, we're in a new paradigm now. Thank goodness. It's humbling. I went to college. I graduated cum laude, and I never walked. I didn't walk because in my head, I thought it was just lame. I thought it was cheesy or something. But what it was really also was that first and foremost, well, I'll get into the projection next. I'll say that I wasn't having the best relationship with my grandmother by then, who had raised me, because she was continuing to support my abusive older brother. And I had come out of an abusive relationship myself. I was doing everything I could to leave the country and to make a new life elsewhere. And I did. I did achieve that. I'm proud of myself for that. You know what? I want to make these videos because we talk about emotional regulation, and that's part of healing your attachment trauma. But it's not always about regulating and controlling your emotions. It's about inviting them to tea. It's about inviting them and holding space for them. We cover them up. We edit these parts in videos maybe that we don't want to be seen. We want to be seen as strong, hyper independent, women with a masculine shield up maybe, who can't soften. Or maybe we're men who do that too. Because that can be a trait that men do that actually can go into overdrive and hurt them. Where men don't ask other men for help. They don't meet their brotherhood. They think it doesn't even exist, maybe, because they're bypassing it on autopilot. I'm not just here for the women, for my sisters. I'm here for my brothers too. We're in this collective, and there's a lot that we can learn from each other. So I didn't walk, and I didn't want to ruminate. I didn't want to sit there and ruminate, feel extra ruminations of emotions and mental patterns while I sat there comparing myself to others. So I avoided it. A friend who I had in those days called me up and said, "You didn't walk." It's like, yeah, I just, I didn't feel like it. It's like, oh, I wish you did. I missed you there. I also realized today this pattern of what I've been doing. It's not just an assumption, it was a projection. It's lame. What I'm saying is, I'm lame. I'm projecting this feeling of being lame, unworthy, not good enough as that's lame on others, on a community maybe, or on this event where I can actually be in this experience that I work to cultivate, that I'm undermining. Have you done this too? How have you done it? Where have you done it? Why have you done it? What have you noticed? Or maybe after you watch this, you will notice an assumption that you've been having. We can't see through the assumptions when we're in the denial. And we may berate ourselves over the denial. If you're doing that, stop. Doesn't get us anywhere. When I was done watching this video, going into the next right step, the next step forward, that's skillful, that's wholesome, just one step forward. Watch this video, do the exercises. I opened up my phone, went into my email, and realized it was still drawn up. The email inviting me as an alumni. And there I realized, here I am, focusing on the lack, focusing on how I can't meet other health coaches in my community, these little victim ruminations or victim blocks. These little things that I'm stuck in the pattern of what is familiar, not seeing out of it. And as I looked at this email, I was like, whoa, this is once again something that I'm not participating in, but I will easily sign up and pay, or just pay for holistic festivals, events where I don't really have to, like biohacking thing, which I'm not, I mean, I do some biohacking here and there, but I'm not like, I don't call myself a biohacker, and I'm not putting out videos and biohacking all the time. Maybe I will in the future, who knows? It's not something that I have any skin in the game right now, so it's easy for me to just pay and go. But when it comes to something that I paid and I worked for and I got a certification and all of that, I'm reducing the importance of it. And I'm saying, like, oh, that's lame. Who's going to even be there? Like, I can't even quantify exactly what basis of like correctness that this has, that this may even be true. This is what's funny about assumptions, is that your mind just makes them and finds reason to believe them, but it may be complete BS. And I'm going to share with you a story actually of how much BS this is. It's a funny one. Our mind makes these up and we don't even see through it. I was like, that's, oh my God, it's like complete BS. Who knows who you'll meet there? Why haven't you been communing with your people? And I was like, oh, I don't have a car yet while I move to this new place. How am I going to get there? There's like a million things. I don't know about a million, but like countless things that I have made it to where I didn't even have a car. I have been a world traveler since I was 23. I'm 36 now. I have found my way around the world somehow. And here's this little thing like, oh, I'm not really sure. Should I pay for an Uber to get to something where I might meet a lot of fantastic people? People who are truly aligned with what I'm on a mission for too? Holistic health, wellness, coaching. My ego hates putting out a vulnerable video and would always delete a lot of these. It's going out there. It's going out there. Maybe you're attuned to the same bullshit, maybe you're not. May this resonate with you, my friend, where you are on your journey. Maybe you worked, maybe you've been filming videos, maybe you're a content creator, maybe you're doing something else and you keep erasing it. You keep working overtime and then erasing it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's BS. So I just, you know what? Filled out the little form, just took a minute, signed up, registered for the event. I'll be there. Who knows who I'll meet? Who knows what will happen? The nice thing is that I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to meet other people aligned with this path in my area. And I only really see wins in this now. I only see some wins. What's funny about these assumptions and these blocks, they're really just blocks, right? Assumptions, beliefs that are on autopilot, emotions that are stuck in the past, blocks. What's funny about them is that it's this little tiny awareness, this little nugget of gold, and this little step that we can take to just shift. And that can put us completely on a new course. That can get us out of the stuckness. We know that, right? What's that one little thing right now for you? That one little thing. And those little steps accumulate. We're conditioned to see this bigger picture, this whole thing that's built by someone or society. And then we remember Rome wasn't built in a day. These little things accumulate. This is also why I recommend and relish in doing things like sunset or sunrise meditation, or some meditation where you watch something accumulate, like dripping of water accumulating into like a bowl or something. You watch it and you see how it builds up from one little thing at a time. And then somewhere along the way, there's exponential weight or growth, and it's like, and then eons down the line, we have the Grand Canyon or something. Or maybe we have Sedona. I'll tell you a little funny story real quick. So I go to Sedona a lot. It's one of my homes. And I've explored many of the vortexes, or vortices, excuse me. Did I speak perfect enough? It is vortices, you know. I think you can actually say vortexes. Kind of like dominatrices. There's this one vortex called Chapel of the Holy Cross. And I have driven past that dozens of times. And I kid you not, every time that I would drive past it, I had this thing that I didn't realize till my last stay in Sedona about a month ago, was an assumption. I had an assumption when I would drive by it, I'd park up even, and I'd think, oh, you need a ticket to get in. I cannot explain to you where I even made this assumption up, or how, or why I assumed that you need a ticket to get up to that church. Maybe, as I say this, maybe it's because when I went to Airport Mesa before, you have to, it's hard to get parking sometimes, especially in high season. And I ended up like, I couldn't get parking on the street, so I ended up driving up to the parking lot and I had to pay. And then it wasn't that expensive. I think it's like $5. And they're like, hey, you can park here all day, you know, or you can come back and go. And Airport Mesa's cool. It's not my favorite of the vortexes or spots in Sedona. But let me tell you, Chapel of the Holy Cross probably is now. It's one of my favorites now. So I had this friend, one of my best friends. He's an older, full-time RVer boomer. That I said, you should come hang out in Sedona. Let's meet up there, and I'll show you around Sedona, because he hadn't been in decades. And I was like, so I think we should go to this one vortex. Let's go to Chapel of the Holy Cross. I've never been there, but I think you need a ticket to get in. So I'll figure that one out. And I couldn't figure it out online, and I'm not always a planner. Sometimes I plan a lot, sometimes I just fly by the edge of my seat. Sometimes there's assumptions in my way, sometimes there's not. And we drive up to it, and I was like, oh, I guess, you know what? I guess we find parking because it's not really high season now. And I mean, this is true. It's not high season when we were there. And we walk up there and all of that. And he's struggling. He's having some issue with his back these days. And I'm going through assumptions actually of like, as an empath, one who's still evolving, of like why his moaning and groaning and how this feels for him. And I'm like, just hold space for him, dude. Like, he's having a hard day. It's not about you. I was like, how you doing? It's like, yeah. And he'll complain. And I'm like, it's all right. Hold space for people to complain. And I'm recognizing little assumptions that I have. We get up there, the chapel, and holy, it's freaking gorgeous. I really think that that's the most beautiful church I've ever been in. I've been to some beautiful churches in Europe, like beautiful, gorgeous architecture. But man, Chapel of the Holy Cross, it really was inviting. It really felt like it had been really carved out in nature. And I read the plaque on the wall of how they built it, and the inspiration for it was that the creator also had the assistance of Frank Lloyd Wright and had seen the completed Empire State Building and saw a cross that seemed to impose itself through the very core of its structure when they viewed it from a certain angle. And this haunted them for days. Should not we in America also have a national shrine where God can be worshipped as a contemporary? And would this not bring him closer to each and every one of us? And I realized as I was there and I was seeing the gorgeous light coming in, it was golden hour almost, and the church was about to close in about 20 minutes, and I was like, man. We lit some candles, we made some intentions. And I realized that I had this crazy, ridiculous assumption that you needed tickets to get up there. I needed a ticket that didn't exist to get up there. And that was what was blocking me. All in good time, once again. I think it worked out at the perfect time, the perfect lesson really for me at that time, and coming back to it today. But it really showed me how ridiculous it is. You don't need tickets to get up there. You may struggle a little bit to find parking in high season, but the church is welcoming everyone. That was a self-worth issue. And you know what, here's the other thing, is you don't need to overanalyze. Like sometimes your mind will be like, how can that possibly be a self-worth issue? But at the root of it is that it is. You think there's a ticket that you need to get in. That's not even the case. Why do you need a ticket? Because you need to prove your worth? Because you need to work hard to get that ticket? The mind also, it just has its limitations a lot. You have to reprogram the mind. The subconscious really is controlling 97%, by the way, of all of our choices and actions. That's why, your conscious mind can tell your conscious mind so many things and nothing will change. You've got to get to the subconscious to repattern. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about participating. Maybe you think you need a ticket. Maybe that comes from class where you didn't get the ticket. You didn't get the gold star, so you shouldn't participate. I know that was one pattern for me. And sometimes I'll get these little reminders from the universe. Ticket will have a happy face on it. And I'll be like, oh my God, that reminds me of that one ticket that I got in 3rd grade, and I couldn't seem to get more of them. And I saved it because I couldn't buy anything else but like one thing. I can't remember what you could buy from the teacher with it, but I couldn't get more than one ticket. And I felt like I wasn't good enough. The ticket. If you want to be somewhere on your path, and you truly know deep down, beyond the limitations of the mind, of the ego, of the programming, that you are destined for it, keep going and make that one little movement today, that one little step. Thanks for joining me today. This awareness was so much less painful than something that came up this week, so I'm really glad that it was like a fun one. You know, healing isn't always all like so deep triggering, right? Let's remind ourselves that, because I'm talking a lot about childhood trauma around here, and I get like, oh gosh, I don't want it always to be so serious. Sometimes it's just something that's like, oh man, you know, like I've been doing this a lot and it's really holding me back. We can also laugh at ourselves, like that we think we need tickets to get up to a church that invites everyone. And that we think that everyone's lame who we actually really want to be more and more aligned with. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you for joining me. I hope I hope this video was of service to you. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel, it helps other people find it. And if you want to stay connected, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Mwah. Blessed be. Another little thing I need to add in here is don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Do it now. Do it now. Wah, wah. It's not like a, oh my God, be mean to yourself. I'm lazy. I don't have enough dopamine. No, it's a little thing that I tell myself where I say to myself, like, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Do it now. Do it now. And I'm like, all right, all right. Just this little thing. Okay, just a little cheeky thing that I tell myself. And it really is effective. It is. And then I just do the one thing instead of procrastinating it, or instead of accidentally forgetting, which I've noted is also something to do with procrastinating on like a subconscious level where I'm overlooking stuff. That's why it's like, do it now, do it now. Sign up for it, put it in your calendar. Of course, there are other blocks of participation, like you don't want to be the kid who raises their hand so many times because maybe you're judging that kid. Or it could be like, yeah, you think that you're a burden for doing that, for participating too much. Or, you know, there could be all kinds of blocks here of reasons why we don't participate. And I'd love to hear from you if what those reasons are. There's another video that I intend to make as well about this block of encouragement that I've had in my life that I've been getting through. And it also is quite connected with this block of participating and this learned helplessness of like, what's the point? Why try? It doesn't matter anyway. I can't make a difference. Not true. Not true. Pattern of learned helplessness. Pattern maybe, you know, in my case, I don't know about yours, is like, no one cares. Why try? It doesn't matter. And a lot of this also is connected with the fixed mindset, which is where you're not living from a growth mindset, which growth mindset means that learning and development happen over time. And when we make mistakes or we have failures, it's just part of the development, actually. But when we're having a fixed mindset, which everyone has with something or another, like even people who are very much living in growth mindset can have a fixed mindset with one thing or another. But anyhow, a fixed mindset is like every little failure is taken to heart. We can't really move the needle. It's a lot of like victimhood, basically. And with fixed mindset, we believe that we cannot change, that these are our qualities and we're stuck with this. And that is not true. Your metamorphosis awaits.